So you grew up in a little town, Oldenburg. When did you start tinkering with stuff and tearing things apart and trying to make something out of them?
From my earliest memories, I would take model cars and modify them and make different cars out of them. I'd take motors out of one, put in another one. I'd take a little electric cars and I'd put bigger batteries in her, bigger tires on them. Always modified. Always, I was called a play baby when I was a kid because I tinkered with everything.
You're just trying to make everything a little bit better, a little bit cooler.
Always got to be creative.
Oh, sure. So did you have any mentorship growing up? You were in scouts. You had a scout leader that was kind of into woodworking with you.
We had a scoutmaster named Joe Geyer, still one of my heroes. He was a really good dude. He's gone now, but he was a wood carver and he was a very creative man, and his still waters ran deep. And he kind of inspired us as kids, and especially me, that to be creative, to do things, to try things. He would take us on hikes. We would do things that normal kids wouldn't get a chance to do, and be creative in doing it. He's truly one of my heroes.
And working with your hands and trying to
Absolutely.
showing you that you can do anything if you really want to.
Yeah, he was a woodworker, and I thought wood was going to be cool and something I wanted to do, but I gravitated more towards metal.
Right, right. So after school, then you went to the Navy, correct?
Correct. Straight out of school. 3 months later, I was Hayes Gray and underway in Uncle Sugar's Canoe Club. And I went into electronics because they recruited me out of electronics class in vocational school. And again, I was being creative with electric stuff and thinking that's where I wanted to go. But after I got into electronics and stuff, it was not my bag. You couldn't see it
Happen.
work. Yeah, you couldn't see it happen. You couldn't see the end result. You were just doing electrical stuff and screens would light up or whatever. I like more mechanical, more physical type things. So that was good and I could do it, but it wasn't my thing. So when I got out of the Navy, I had what they called the old GI Bill, which would allow me to go to college and they would pay for it. And I thought the only thing I can't do on a car or a motorcycle was weld it. I'm good mechanically and electrically. So I went to vocational school to learn how to weld and came home that night and told my dad, find me a welder. This is excellent.
Nice.
So that was the start.
Now, when you were in the Navy, did that seeing all those different locations and areas like kind of inspire you at all as far as architecture and different things that you'd seen?
Well, it definitely gave me a different viewpoint from just Batesville area. I love the Desert Southwest architecture and the different things that it offers. But Southern California was kind of basic suburbia, really concrete jungle. But getting out towards a desert or going to Arizona or something like that, that architecture that really touched home.
Okay. So when you said you really kind of found out that wood's not your thing and metal's more alluring to you, why is that? Or why do you seem to go with that medium to start with?
That's a real good question. You can do, I'll put it this way, when I was in vocational school as a senior in high school and I was in electronics class, if I'd have to go to the office, I would have to walk past the welding class. And I would always stop and look in there and I would think, if you can weld, you can make anything. And it's kind of true. You can just do so much more with metal. I love cars. I love motorcycles. I love metal sculpture. I love doing anything structurally with metal. It just fit me better. Wood is a great medium, but it has its limitations.
Sure.
And metal really doesn't have much as far as limitations go.
And you've kind of gone from just plain metal to coppers to other kind of work materials throughout your career, correct?
Yes, I started off with just welding and doing welding sculpture, and that was fun and good, and you could do some creative stuff there. But then I got into blacksmithing with the Indiana Blacksmithing Association, and those guys were extremely helpful and truly giving guys. I mean, it's amazing because in today's world, if somebody does something creative or something unique or something, they don't really want to share how they did it or what they did. It's kind of theirs. They want to make a profit off it or something.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the blacksmiths, if they did something, they created something, they would actually take you and drag you over there and say, this is how you do it. They were really giving people. It was awesome. So, and you can do some really cool creative stuff with blacksmithing, and I enjoy that. But then that morphed then into copper, because it's a little bit more artsy what I do, which is repoussé. It's a three-dimensional art piece that you can hang on the wall or whatever. And I really enjoy that. And it's a little easier on the body,
Right.
a lot easier on the body.
A lot of years swinging a hammer takes a toll on you.
Tendonitis too many times.
So tell me the differences between when you started running your business and then you kind of switched over to the art to being more of an aesthetic art studio. How was that transition, and how did one help for the other?
Well, having the background in fabrication and building things for, Batesville Casket, Hill Rom, Ford, IWI, the fabrication is kind of in and of itself art to me, and designing something and then building it and taking it to fruition. So I had that in it, and it just got a big business is not me.
Mhm.
It's just not. My business grew, and I had 9 guys working for me at one time, and I don't micromanage, but I take everything personal that goes through me. It's got to be right. So it was kind of wearing me out, and I got to the point where I had done well enough that I could back off and just do my own art and my own creating, whatever it might be, or even fabricating. So um, I then went into, basically art full time, and that was fun. It was good. It's still a lot of work, because you got to go to art shows and schlep all your stuff in and out, and then, try to sell, which I'm not good at. But at least it was creating, and it was fun,
And fulfilling, I'm sure.
totally
Right.
fulfilling.
So I know you've kind of shared your art form with a lot of the youth around this area, and the school corporations and a few other things. Can you kind of expand on that, like different projects you've done in collaboration with the schools and students and mentoring programs and anything like that?
Yeah, that was an interesting beginning. About 31 years ago, 32 years ago, the RAA then approached me and asked me if I would want to work with the kids in doing some sort of sculpture. What could I do? Well, I can't teach 8th graders to weld, but I
Sure.
can teach them to solder. So since we had Batesville Casket here, and they're very generous towards the schools and what have you, they would have like scrap copper that they would give to us, donate to the school, and then we would also buy different size tubes,
Mm-hmm.
and then also like a number 8 wire, which is kind of a heavy wire. And with those 3 different shapes, basically, they could make all kinds of things. And I could teach them to solder. They could solder the copper easy enough. So it started out doing copper sculpture for the kids, and we did it a couple years. And then I talked to a stained glass artist named Sharon Sievers, and I thought, well, let's combine the copper and the stained glass, and we can make something pretty cool with the kids. So she was all about it for one semester,
Mm-hmm.
and she couldn't deal with the 8th graders, which is, I understand. So she said that was it. She was done, but we had all this stained glass equipment.
Right.
So I learned how to do stained glass with her, and we took that then and we did a free form stained glass deal where I would have the kids make a copper frame or copper structure of some sort, and then we put stained glass in it, and that was going really well. And then through an interesting turn of events, I came across this lantern that my girlfriend had bought for me, and I thought, well, this would be great, because now the project that I do with them can be wood, copper, stained glass, and etched glass. So it became a really nice project, and I think we've been doing that for 26 or 27 years, something like
Okay.
that. It morphed into that, and it was really good. And there's a lot of stained glass lanterns out there in people's houses around Batesville right
Oh,
now.
very
A
cool.
lot of them.
And I'm sure everybody's holding on to those in 20
Oh
now
yeah,
look at them. Oh, I remember making that.
absolutely. I still have a first year student that came up to me out at a local business and said, "Do you remember when I took your class?" And that was 31 years ago. And I'm like, "Not really." He goes, "I made a copper dragster. I know who you are, because I remember that dragster." And
Very cool.
it's cool. And he has it in his office. He has an office job now, and he has it in his office. And that is
That's cool.
really neat to see that,
Yeah.
he would have kept it all these years.
So, Chaz, since you have been teaching quite a bit, or over the years, how has that influenced your art and the way that you go about it?
It doesn't really influence my art as much as it gets me to think about creating maybe in another way. I don't know how to put that. I have my style, what I do, but it kind of broadens my perspective on it, and I might look at how can I do this maybe a little different, but in still in my way of doing my art.
And what did you really hope that all these students would take away from doing these art projects with you?
That's a great question, because virtually every class I would talk to the students and about the art and say, this may or may not be your bag of BBs. This may not be your thing. If it is, great. Be creative. But I tried to instill, when I would teach them, to do what they really want to do. The money will follow. And we've all heard that. The money will follow. But do what you want to do, what makes you happy. And how I would propose it to people is, you're going to sleep 8 hours a day, you're going to work 8 hours a day, and you're going to play 8 hours a day. Why not be happy in your work and your play? Because sleep, everybody's happy. So why not make it a full day of happy, instead of going to a job that you don't want to do, that you only do it for the money, or you have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of that, do something that you really want to do, and it's not a job then. It's just not a job. It's something fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I would try to instill that upon the kids in the class. And if they liked art, great, go with it. But I mean, if it was a little bitty kid and he loved basketball and he's never going to make it in the NBA, it's like, that's cool. You love basketball. Maybe there's a job in the front office or the back office, or recruiting or something like that. But don't think that you got to play it. But you can be in that business.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What other collaborations have you done with the local community here and other communities?
I've done a couple of large community projects. The Glockenspiel on the training building is one, my more recent one, which was really fun, that we had an NEA grant for through the BAAC. And then another big one was the Rising Sun Fountain, which they had there for quite a while, but they had to take down because their water is so hard and it limed up the lines all the time that the fountain really didn't work well.
Oh, right.
So they took it out and they put it in their historical society garden.
So on the Glockenspiel project, that's a pretty large project. What was all involved in that?
That was a project, and the reason I did that, the main reason I did that was it was something for Batesville. I love Batesville. That's just all there is to it, and I would do anything for Batesville. But that was a project that came about. And they were going to get an NEA grant, and they wanted me to submit something. But that was an NEA grant is submitted truly worldwide.
Sure.
Anybody can submit to this project, and they wanted me to do that. And I guess I had a little bit of a home field advantage because I know the town and I know where it was going to go. And that was, I guess, a little bit of an advantage for me. But when I looked at the project and where it had to go, I just looked at it as, okay, this is a Germanesque part of town. There's a clock tower. So what would fit in that kind of a venue, and it was perfect. It was perfect for a glockenspiel, which you would see in Germany and Bavaria and Austria and that sort of thing. And it was a clock tower, and that's where it was at. And it was a perfect site. So then I knew what I wanted to do, and it had to be about Batesville. And Batesville was founded on we have good wood and furniture industry. And so I took that and thought, well, we'll just make it about the initial part of the wood with the woodsman, and make a glockenspiel where they were two woodsmen are sawing a log, and it worked out really good. And we got the grant, and to do it, it's all hammered out of aluminum, 11 gauge aluminum. And then the working mechanism is behind it to make it work. It's actually in the clock tower, and it works off of a timer. Um, and Andrea Grimsley painted it for me, and um, I installed it with the help of some great friends of mine, because it's Batesville and people help people around here, and it turned out to be a really good, really cool project.
To change speeds a little bit, like when you're starting a new project, kind of walk me through your process of getting the project idea, how you're going to come to fruition to the end.
Yeah, most of my projects aren't about me.
Mm-hmm.
They're about somebody else that wants something done. So somebody will come to me and they're interested in something for their house or whatever it might happen to be. Well, I get to know the people. I get to know what they like. I want to make it all about them, and it might be something as simple as a fireplace screen, or cattails for their pond, or whatever it might happen to be. But I want their input. I want them to be part of it. And then I can use my ideas and my abilities to create something for them. But I don't do a whole lot of art for me. It's kind of like the barefoot shoemaker. If somebody comes to me, and depending upon what they want built, whether it be a fountain or whatever, wall hanging or whatever, um, I want to get I want to see the venue of which it's going to be in,
Right.
because it's got to fit. Um, so I usually go to their place and then talk with them and sit down and get their feel. And then I'll look around and I'll try to get a feel for them and their surroundings. Like if they have dogs, I might incorporate a dog theme in there, or it just depends. I'll try to get a feel for the people and then get their input, and then try to put together, and then typically do some sort of a quick sketch,
Mm-hmm.
something, and see if they like it, if we're going in the right direction, and if they do, um, then I'll take it to more of a drawing, or maybe even a mock-up of what they want, and then do the finished product.
Okay.
But again, I want them to be happy with it. I don't want them to just buy this from me because I did it. I want it to be about them. I want them to be part of it. I want them to be proud of it, and even take some ownership of it.
Right. So, Chaz, I got been blacksmithing probably 4 or 5 years ago, and you've been tremendously helpful with that. Just like you said, the Indiana Blacksmithing Association really helped me through some problems, and lining out projects and how to do them, and not putting the cart in front of the horse. What else is entailed in turning your art form into a business and being able to make that, like time management? I know every tool that I've made. Every tool that you've had, you've pretty much almost made. Certain fixtures for other things, and kind of really thinking ahead of the project. Like, okay, well, if I'm going to do 15 of these, I need to come up with a jig versus doing one-offs. I know there's a lot of variables in that, and depending on the project and the scope of the project. But what's some good things like time management and other things that can help somebody turn their art form into a business, or and evolve their creativity from there?
Yeah, if a person wants to get into some form of art, for one, pursue it. just pursue it. I mean, if you got to have a menial job to make ends meet, go for it, but don't stop pursuing it. And when you pursue it, also pursue the possibility of a mentor or some other people who do it. There's um, um, artist, what, not colonies necessarily, but there's two places. There's the Stutz building in Indianapolis, and there's the it escapes me, the one in Cincinnati, where their artists are together, and they rent studios and they bounce ideas off each other. So
Okay.
community is really important. So find people of like mind and bounce ideas and work with them, and it'll expand your horizons. But don't just do that. You got to also have a business mind, because if you're going to be an artist, you're going to own a business. And it wouldn't hurt to take some courses or some sort of understanding of how to run a business, because time is money. It's been said forever, and you got to use your time wisely. You can't spend 15 hours on a project that you charge $50 for.
Right.
That's just not. You're never going to make it. You've got to understand how to manage your time. You've got to understand how to manage a business, at least on your basic level. And you can have people help you with that too, because you can get tax advisors and all that stuff and stay with your art. But community is probably one of the bigger things, to find someone that'll help you. And in the, like you talked about in the blacksmith world, it's awesome because blacksmiths are so giving, but artists can be too. There's a lot of them that will help each other, and they can even get together on larger projects, stuff like that. So find your community, and then as far as your training and stuff, if you can find some way of earning a living doing your art for maybe someone else. My old welding instructor said, learn at someone else's expense. So that's another option, depending upon what you want to get into. But using your time wisely is very important.
The key.
Yes, because you've got to make so much money to keep going, and it's just a fact of life.
Right. Where do you see the future of your aesthetic studio?
Slowly winding down, unfortunately. I'll have to be honest. I don't take on the big projects anymore because it's just me, and I'm showing signs of age. It happens. I would like to gear more towards the copper repoussé, which I guess we'll have some pictures we can show, but basically it's a lot easier work. It's very gratifying work because I can take a picture of a person and put it in copper. And copper repoussé is something that I like because even some of the great artists, they didn't do their artwork. They had students do their artwork and then they signed it. Da Vinci,
Sure.
Rembrandt, or, Chihuly. They would have other artists or students do their work, and I don't do that. Even if you do a cast bronze piece, somebody's going to cast the bronze for the artist. The artist will do the clay sculpture and everything, and then they'll cast a form for it, and they'll do a lost wax bronze of it. But the artist didn't have a hand in that. When I do art, it's all mine. And that's what I like. It's all mine. And if it's a copper piece and I do someone's face, or I do their dog, or a church, or whatever it is, I'll do it from start to finish. I won't frame it. I won't claim that, but I will do all the art, and that's what I like. So I'm going to try to more gear towards doing smaller things like that.